Hi everyone, and welcome to week 3 of our Anstine Adventures program. Over the past few weeks, we've been learning about the birds, native plants, and pollinators that call the Anstine Audubon Nature Preserve their home. Well, all of these creatures have one thing in common. They're really dependent on healthy, quality water. So this week, we're going to focus on water quality, or the health of the water, and the aquatic life that lives here in our pond. So let's get started with our adventures. Clean water is vital to all living organisms' survival. Plants, animals, and humans all need fresh, healthy water in order to survive. Did you know that humans can go weeks, even months without food? But we can only survive a few days without water. It's that important to us. And the quality of that water matters too. Water that is filled with dirt and debris like sticks, leaves, and rocks might be good enough for a plant to drink, but would you want to drink it too? Of course not. Water quality can be thought of as the health of the water depending on its use. For example, drinking water needs to be clean and free from any bacteria or living organisms. But healthy ocean water is known to be filled with tiny marine organisms. It just all depends on its use. And just how much water is available for us to drink? Well, our planet is considered a water planet. About 71% of its entire surface is covered in water. Of all of the water on our planet, 97% is salty ocean water. That means that only about 3% is fresh water. Of that, 2% is frozen in ice or hidden in groundwater, leaving only 1% of all of the Earth's water available as drinking water. But where does all that fresh water come from? Water is constantly moving around through the water cycle. Starting out as rain or snow, the water falls on the Earth, moving along rivers and lakes, and evaporating into the clouds as it falls again down to the earth. And as the water is moving from high in the mountains, down our streams, and into the ocean, it follows a very particular path called a watershed. Think of a watershed as a big natural bowl. The rain and snow that fall high in the mountains run down the sides of the bowl and create a stream or a river. These flowing bodies of water continue until they all dump out into the ocean. As the water flows along the streams, past our cities, farms, houses, and factories, it picks up contaminants like garbage, chemicals, and sewage along the way. This is how our fresh rainwater can go from healthy drinking water to water with very unhealthy water quality. These pollutants also go into our groundwater. Groundwater is water that is found underground in the cracks and spaces between the soil, sand, and rocks. Though groundwater can be invisible to us since it's hidden underground, it is very important to plants, animals, and people too. Trees will reach their roots way down to the level of the groundwater so that they have a drinking source during the dry times. People dig wells that tap into groundwater for drinking and irrigating crops. If we allow pollution to seep down into the groundwater, it can be very difficult or even impossible to remove them. During the rainy season, the rains fall faster than the soil can absorb. Often this leads to more sediment getting into the pond and creek than is healthy for the water. Luckily, plants that grow along our pond's edge, like cattails, help filter some of the sediment out of the water. As we learned, even the ground itself helps filter the water before it ends up as drinking water. Today we are going to explore some natural systems that help keep our groundwater clean. First, let's take a look at how plants can help make our waterways healthy. All along the shoreline here at Anstine grow a very densely packed group of plants called cattails. Cattails are a native plant here in San Diego. They like to grow in very wet areas along the water's edge. Their roots are submerged in the water and they grow long leaf blades as well as long stalks with flower heads at the end. In fall and winter, the flower heads pop open and the seeds are easily carried away by the wind. Cattails serve a very important role in keeping our pond habitat healthy. Their roots help slow the water flow and filter out any sand, silt, and soil from the water. They can also help filter out pollutants, not only making our pond a healthy habitat for animals, but for helping to keep harmful chemicals and sediments out of our drinking water. Now let's take a break and do a cattail art project to learn about all the different parts that make up a healthy pond ecosystem. Each of you will be getting a white sheet of paper. I folded mine in half and drew all the different parts of my pond, including the water, some animals I may expect to see, and the cattails that surround our pond's edge. Then your teacher will be passing out some green paper where I cut out some cattail leaves and stalks, as well as some brown felt where you can create the flower heads of your cattails. The felt has some sticky back that you can take off the paper and attach, or you can just simply use some glue. We'll be creating these art projects so that we remember all the different parts that make up a healthy pond ecosystem. After this project, I'll be introducing you to our Zoom lab, where we'll be creating some water filters to learn how to filter out contaminants from our pond's water. I wanted to take a moment to teach you how you can help protect wildlife in your neighborhood. Number one is to keep your distance from wildlife. You may see a squirrel or a bird outside and want to go running up to it, but we need to remember that most of these animals are very shy and we don't want to scare them away from their nests, their babies, or their food. Number two is to make sure that everything you find in nature stays in nature. Even if you see a really cool wildflower or a rock that you want to take home, we need to remember that this can be food or shelter for the animals in our community. And number three is to make sure you pick up all your garbage. Most of the garbage that falls on the ground ends up in our waterways, and we know how that can affect the organisms in our community. So now that we learned how we can help protect wildlife, let's get our hands dirty by exploring ways that we can filter water, from dirty pond water to a little bit cleaner water that's probably healthier for our plant community. Hi everyone, and thanks for joining me today as we create water filters using natural materials. The water that we will be filtering will not be safe enough for humans to drink, but it should be wonderful for our plants to use. So let's get started. First, you'll need to make sure that your stations are set up. At your station, there'll be 4 bowls, one with cotton balls, large rocks, small rocks, and sand. You'll also need an empty cup, some clean water, some potting soil with some dirt and debris like rocks and sticks in it, a spoon, your purple filter, and your water filtration worksheet and a pen or a pencil. So the first thing that we need to understand is that nature does a great job at filtering our water for us. As the rains fall down onto the soil, it goes through the sand and dirt at the top layer, down through the rocks beneath our surface, and into the groundwater below that we use to further filter into drinking water. So we're going to try to recreate that today by using natural materials. So the very first thing we'll need to do is create some dirty water. So to create our dirty water, we're going to take clean water and add some potting soil with some sticks and rocks, and you can pretend that there's some pollutants in here too, but there's not really today. I'm going to take a spoonful of our dirt and mix it into our clean water. This will be our dirty water for the day. Now, would you want to drink this water? Of course not. So let's see how clean we can get it. Before we do that, let's think about the best technique to create a filter.
on your water worksheets, you're gonna notice a small little cup under experiment A. That's gonna be where we decide which materials we're gonna use in which order for our first experiment. So to do that, I'm gonna grab my purple filter. I'm gonna go over and grab a cotton ball. I'm not gonna use the whole cotton ball, just part of it, and I'll move some of it off to the side. Maybe a little bit more to fill the whole bottle. Then using my spoon, I'm gonna go to large rocks. I'll take a big scoop of large rocks and put them in my filter next. Remember, large rocks are underneath the ground, we just can't see them usually. Then I'll go to my small rocks and put a layer of those in as well. And at the very top of my filter, I'm going to fill it with sand. Sand is a great filter because it'll catch any of those sticks and rocks and debris that are trying to get through in my dirty water. So your next step will be to take your filter and your empty cup. You want to carefully balance your filter in your cup. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you just want to make sure there's some space underneath here so that the water can filter through. Now, this part's difficult because you have to go very slowly. So pour your water in through your filter. You want to make sure that it doesn't spill over the edges. So I'm going to just do it in small sections. It's going to take a moment for my water to start filtering through because it has to get through all of those rocks and the cotton before it dumps out at the bottom of my cup. So I'm going to continue filtering my water, and you'll see it start pouring out the bottom. Now, when we compare our waters from our dirty water that we began with to the water coming through our filter, hopefully you see a really big difference. And that's our goal today.